feeding you. It's not fostering you. And there are a lot of people who advocate for mental health. We just don't really support them online.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about online so much because that's kind of the premise of where we talk about
everything.
Everything.
The world that we
it's
in
the social. It's the social hub. This is where we go for information. So if you don't follow certain outlets or if you don't tap into certain conversations online, you more than likely will be more ignorant to whatever is being discussed publicly because you're just not in the conversation. You don't see it. You don't happen. You only know what you see. I saw a study that most Americans use like 8 hours of screen time a day.
That's crazy. Yeah.
8 hours of screen time a day.
That sounds about right.
Well, think about it like this. Let's break down what a week look like. You got 168 hours in a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say the average American works for 40 of them. And if they're lucky, they get 8 hours of sleep. So that's 56 more hours, right? 96 hours. 7 days left. And that's about 60 plus hours left.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you spend 8 hours on your phone a day while you're away,
times that up.
and there's still 7 more days in the week of free time where you're not at work and you're not sleeping, if you use those hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is 56 hours of idle time where you're taking in content that either matters or doesn't matter. I think there's a lot of mental health advocacies. We just don't support them that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to actually shed more light on the people who are working on a daily basis to encourage people to be more mentally healthy.
Yeah. Do you think it needs to be talked about more?
100%, but I need to be more educated because I think there's a difference between someone who is depressed and someone who's not getting what they want.
Yes.
There's a complete difference.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between someone who's in counseling every single week, who's taking the Zolofts and the melatonins and whatever it is to inhibit sleep or whatever the case to push their life better so that they can have a better chemical reaction in their brain to be the best version of themselves, and somebody who's just insecure about certain things that they are intentionally taking in. Like I'm on Instagram and I see things that are making me sad, but I just can't stop.
Can't stop, yeah.
It's like you're doing it to yourself.
Yeah.
And mental health advocacy should spend more time talking about social media. I think that's the one thing that's missing from the mental health conversation is social media and how to really use it. How to use it as a tool, how to use it as an escape, and everything in between. But like I said, I've been a part of the mental health conversation, at least online. I watch it and I tap into it. I try to read studies about it. I go to therapy weekly. I try my best to keep myself right, and it doesn't make me better or worse than anyone else. But I do understand that mental health is something that you have to work on a daily basis. My friend Willis, who Chill Will Radio he's the person.
No Chill Will.
He's had my back mental health wise. I say since 2017. I call him when I need some things. Yeah, when I need some help or when I need. It hasn't been that often that I've called him recently. I have an in-person therapist now, but Willis is an amazing asset and resource when it comes to someone who knows how to get to the bottom of what it is you may be dealing with. And there are people like that God places around you on a daily basis that help to alleviate that mental health issues, those mental health issues that you may come across on a daily basis. And if we decide to spend 8 hours on our phone, we might miss that person. Yeah. Or we might not.
Definitely.
If we can't turn off certain vices, it'll be harder for us to get to where we're supposed to be mentally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because it's taking over our lives.
Exactly.
Instagram.
100%.
Twitter, all that.
All of it.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to take a little break, and we'll be right back,
y'all. Ride with it on us. Go Daytonas.
Yeah. Ride with it on us. You ever seen a nigga get shot by the Staples Center? Next day watching Brian with them staples in him. Yeah. Came for the ruckus. Head to toe dipping Supreme. I'm like a cutlass. Fuck it. Let loose on niggas. Feel my goose on niggas. 2 tears in a bucket. All the smoke. 3-wheel motion in the Bentley truck. C12 and hold the Remy up.
Alrighty, thank you guys for tuning back. We are back from break. Let Me Speak podcast episode 12 with my wonderful guest here, Terayle.
Hey, what's
Thank you again for being here.
I'm happy to be here. It's all good.
Okay, so you know what I didn't ask you?
What's up?
I always ask all my majority of my artists who they come in, they're all men, usually black men. I always like to ask them this famous question: how do you feel now that we're 2019 and Donald Trump is your president? How do you feel as a black man?
He's not my president.
Okay.
To set the record straight. He's not my president. I didn't vote for him. And I don't think he won the popular vote either. That was Electoral College's fault, which is also some bullshit.
Yeah.
So, I don't know who they have in here. He's just a placeholder for whoever's next. But I don't feel about him. I don't think about him very often. I know he's going to get impeached soon. I'm looking forward to it.
I was going to say, do you think he's going to get impeached soon? I was going to ask you that.
I'm going to just give somebody $20 at the grocery store just on some random. As soon as you get impeached, holiday.
Right.
No, I just don't. I don't support the antics, and I protest the bullshit a lot. It's the same thing, just off the same thing with music wise, and in this, if there's something that I look at and I just don't personally support it, I just don't pay attention to it. I don't think about it. It's not a productive thought process. It's not a productive listening session. And it's just no. He's just not. He make my stomach hurt.
Mine too. Do you feel though, like since he's been in office, like, what's the word? I don't want to just say things are getting bad, but I do feel like since he's been in office, certain things like racism is way more. People are way more vocal about it. I feel
it's
people
not
are way
as
more
covert.
bold.
Yeah, I'll say racism. Racism has been around,
of course,
forever. But I'll say that it's not as people feel a lot more comfortable. It's not as it's not as covert as it was. It's a lot more up close and personal. I think every generation got its plight. I think 100 years ago, to be black in America was a completely different feeling than 90 years ago, 80 years ago, 70 years ago, 60 years ago, 50 years ago, so on and so on, all the way up to now. 10 years ago, to be black was completely different than it is now. And I think every generation is just going to have its plight. Unfortunately, this is ours. You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
Dealing with certain stigmas and realities and being brainwashed from the side to the age that you're 2 years old with propaganda through media and electronics. I think there's a lot. I think that's going to do more long-term damage than a lot of the things that we went through a while ago. And it doesn't make that easier than, it doesn't make this easier than that or that easier than this. It's just a completely different plight and process. Thank God for my ancestors for taking whatever they had to take to get us where we are now. I thank God every day for just being black in America at the time that I'm in. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the time that I'm in to be black in America doesn't make me any more or less of uncomfortable, I'll say.
Yeah.
There's still going to be a level of
uncomfortability.
You gotta just keep your head open, your eyes open. You gotta just pay attention to everything around you.
Yeah.
Like we talked about. I'm sure we'll get into Nipsey. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so many ways. It's so many ways to put yourself in a situation where you just end up in a sticky situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just would hate. It's just try to keep my head low. Keep my head low. Mind my business.
Do you feel like it's now, this time that we're in now is more of a, I guess, scarier place to be in for blacks?
No.
With him being?
No. I think there's a difference between actual danger and fear. I read somewhere that scientists said that our brains are shrinking. They've shrunken over 10% since like, I don't know, 100, 200 years ago, because we don't have to like necessarily go out and do the things that we had to do to survive. And of course, the hunters and gatherers' brains were way bigger than our brains are now, because they dealt with actual fear and danger on a daily basis. For the most part, you know what I'm saying? It's easy to stay out of trouble in 2019, but when you get into it, it's really hard to get out. You got prison reform, you got fucked up legislation, you got self-hatred, you got people in your own community looking to take you out, you got people in other communities looking for ways to take you out systematically and directly. I mean, there are so many different ways. I mean, and nowadays, anything that you say can get you taken out. You know what I mean? Like,
Definitely.
there's a freedom of expression, but there's also a freedom of reaction and public opinion. Like Charlamagne the God always says, nobody cares about the truth if lie is more entertaining. I feel like it's probably going to be progressively more difficult to be a black entertainer moving forward, especially if you're not speaking from the place of knowledge, if you're speaking from ignorance, if you're speaking intoxicated, if someone's recording or you press the wrong button or hit a typo or you know what I mean? Like, that's just as much of a death to your career as anything else. So I don't, like I said, everybody just got different plights. Different issues. I don't look forward to some of the things that I probably deal with and any entertainer probably would deal with, but you just hope every day that you're making the right decisions and that you align with your purpose, and that's ultimately how you stay out of trouble, you know?
Yeah.
That's forever though.
Was gonna ask you, do you think, let's talk about police brutality.
Okay.
I have talked about this previously in some of my previous episodes, and I just feel like it's something that, in my opinion, I feel like it can't get enough of being talked about. You know, I do feel like it should be talked about more often. Do you think that police brutality has gone up since he's been in office? Do you think that has anything to do with him being in office? Has anything to do with how I feel like we're being taken out by the police?
I don't want to say that there's not a correlation between Donald Trump and police brutality, because police brutality has been around for the longest.
Yeah, it has.
And the closer we get to where we are now, from the 90s to now, the thing that's made police brutality more of a topic is the fact that we can see it. It's the fact that we can record it, watch it, play it back. I mean, a lot of people, like my younger sisters, saw dead bodies when they logged on to Instagram for social media just to look at makeup tutorials, and Alton Sterling got killed. Like, you can't run from it nowadays. You will see it. And there's positives and negatives in being exposed to certain images, because on one hand, it's like, okay, we know about it, we can fight about it, we can do things about it, we can bring attention to it. But I mean, it's still killing people with body cams on. They're still doing it. And you kind of start to get desensitized to it.
Yes.
You start to almost... Okay, so a police officer got behind me like 2 weeks ago, and it took me everything to just focus on the road.
Yeah. How did you feel?
Focus on the road. I mean, I've been pulled over before by a black lady, and she was kind of mean to me. But, like, I ain't never felt like I was in no real danger. But I will say, if I look in my rear view and I see a police officer that's white and his partner is also white, right there, clear as day, behind me.
You start to get a little...
Yeah, I get antsy. I'm not focused on what's in front of me. I'm focused at the rear view mirror. I'm trying to focus on where I can turn into real quick and just wait until they pass. Or I'm trying to make sure my seatbelt's on. I'm thinking about whether or not my registration's up to date. And it is. You know what I mean? I'm thinking about everything but the road.
Yeah.
Because of the thoughts that pop into my mind without control. I don't judge people who run. I would not encourage it. But if that was your initial thought to do, you know, fight or flight, fight, flight, freeze, I know you couldn't control your reaction. I know that's a scientific fact. You think about something, you can't choose what you think about. I mean, you can choose what you think about, but you can't choose what pops into your head. And as unfortunate as it is, it's just a direct correlation between what we've seen. So, no, I don't give Donald Trump that much credit. I think he's made it easier for people to verbally speak on whether or not they support or not support police reform because of someone like him. I think he's done a great job, and I use great in the worst way, of making people comfortable with not protecting black lives. And that has its own blowback. You know, that's its own issue. But police brutality, Donald Trump, I don't see the correlation. I just see the comfort to disrespect a lot higher from other communities because he's in office. A lot of ignorance being spread. Yeah. You know? What do you feel about better yet, let me ask, do you feel like all black people should be Democrats? No.
Okay.
No, I'm independent, but I've traditionally